After floor 90, the Uovator begins to go crazy with the zaps, doing it at 3 times the speed it was previously. This, however, is short-lived, because at floor 94, as one entire half of the elevator is about to zap, they, along with all the other light bulbs, power down, leaving the elevator completely dark, minus the very soft glow of the floor number and Uovator's face, if you'd call it that. You assume this is your friends doing and silently thank them. The ride finishes and the doors open, not letting in much light, but a breeze instead. You step out of the Uovator and look around. You are outdoors somehow. But not just outdoors, you quickly realize you are in a mirror world. As far as you can tell, the geography and building placement are the same as the world below, with one difference. The building that you may or may not be in right now is gone, with an empty lot in its place. Empty except for the Uovator, which stands alone. Furthermore, it's dark here, but it was only midday when you began this adventure. Looking back in the Uovator, you realize that the floor number and Uovator's face are now gone too. You assume this means the elevator will no longer work, but you don't try it since you don't want to go back now anyway. You just got here after all. Turning away from the Uovator, you look around, trying to decide which direction to go. As you look, you notice one of the 2 ways is blocked by rubble. You could likely climb over it or go around it, but you decide to go the other way. As you walk, your footsteps echo in the silent city. This place makes you uneasy, but your curiosity overcomes your uneasiness, and you press onwards. You find yourself constantly looking around, scanning your surroundings for dangers. After a couple minutes of walking, in the corner of your eye, you spot something moving in an alleyway. You jerk your head towards it. It's a creature of some sort, though you've never seen anything like it. You and the creature stare at each other, standing still for a few seconds, before it looks away and slinks off and out of sight. You begin walking at double speed. After a little while longer of walking, the city begins to peter out. The further out you go, buildings are in worse and worse states of disrepair, and the road and sidewalks get more and more cracked, with grass and other small plants growing in the cracks. You spot 2 more different creatures on another road. Like the previous one, they stare at you for a few seconds and then seem to lose interest. You keep walking. Eventually, the buildings are just piles of rubble surrounded by trees, and there's more ground than there is pavement until the city stops completely and you're walking a dirt forest path. The comfort of streetlights now completely gone, you pull out a flashlight you had on you and continue into the forest. You walk on for a little longer until you reach the top of a taller hill and spot a light a little further down the path. You put away your flashlight and speed walk towards it. As you approach it, you see that it's a clearing marking the end of the forest, lit by sunlight through gray, stormy clouds. How the sun shines in this area and seemingly nowhere else, you don't know. As you reach the clearing, you realize it's at a cliff's edge. Hovering over whatever chasm the cliff drops into is what appears to be a young girl, anywhere between 16 and 20. The girl's looking down and doesn't look or react at all to your presence. You begin walking towards her. The girl's looking down and doesn't look or react at all to your presence. You begin walking towards her. Nothing. You reach the cliff's edge. Still nothing. You stand there, waiting for some sort of reaction or indication that she knows you're there for a short while, before deciding to speak. "Hello?" you say to her. At the sound of your voice, she jerks her head up, revealing bright white glowing irises. She quickly raises her right arm, and when she does, your surroundings begin to distort and change. You soon find yourself in darkness again, so you pull your flashlight back out and turn it on. You're now in a concrete room, the walls and ceiling covered in graffiti, and the floor covered in dust. You hear movement and whip around. Then you see it, coming at you from a doorway. The concrete creature, 225 attack, 500 defense, 1000 health, type boss. This enemy has no special powers and isn't very fast either. Its high attack and defense more than make up for this though. Normal weapons will do very little to this enemy, but tools used for digging and mining will do a lot of damage, cutting through its high defense. Upon seeing the creature, you turn and run, wanting to at least get some distance before you attack. You pick between the 2 exits that the creature isn't blocking and take it. You briefly pause in the doorway to take a peek behind you. The creature is only halfway across the room now, so you deduce that you are faster than it. With this information, you turn and dash down the hall. The hall is the same as the room, with graffiti-covered walls and dust-covered floors. There's a room straight ahead, but also a side room. You decide to quickly stop and look in the side room, in case there's anything helpful in there. Reaching the doorway, you shine your flashlight around the room. There are 2 things of note in the room. 1, a table with a hard hat, a flashlight, some pencils and pens, and some blueprints. Secondly, there's a tall wooden crate in the corner, with a few pickaxes peeking out of the top. You take the hard hat and a pickaxe, the hard hat being free armor, and the pickaxe seeming like a perfect weapon against the enemy at hand. After grabbing and putting on your new items, you exit the room and continue down the hallway. Reaching and entering the room at the end of the hall, you stand next to the doorway, ready to surprise strike the creature when it comes through. You do exactly that. Then back away, hit it again, and repeat this cycle a couple times before going down another hall to repeat the sneak attack and then repeat the cycle of backing away and hitting. As you wait to sneak attack, you realize the oddity of the place you're in. Minus the side room, you've just been going through barren, dusty rooms and halls that all look the same. Before you can think about this much more, the creature comes through the doorway and you attack. As you fight, this time you take a couple hits. They do a lot of damage, and you're forced to use an item after each hit to maintain a good amount of health. When the concrete creature's health finally reaches 0, all the remaining stone that wasn't chipped away by the pickaxe crumbles into dust, leaving only a rusted metal skeleton. Very shortly after defeating the creature, your surroundings distort and change again. You're now on a moving bus. It's dark outside, and the bus is lit by dim, bluish lights. You're facing the front of the bus, and you see no driver or passengers. You slowly turn to face the back of the bus and see a singular passenger. It's certainly not human. The Hinderer. 500 attack, 75 defense. 12,000 health. Type boss. This enemy automatically slows down any living thing close to it. When the Hinderer's flesh makes direct contact with most being, it steadily does damage to that being. On top of this idle damage, it also sometimes strikes its prey, if it sees it as necessary. As you look upon the creature, it begins to rise from its seat and lumber towards you. You start backing away, but realize you're going slower than you expected. After realizing this, you quickly realize that everything you do is slower than you would expect. With this knowledge, you decide that melee attacks aren't a good idea, and you pull out your handgun. You have 12 of Billet's ammo. You fire all of it at the creature, not missing any shots due to the close range. As you shoot, the creature stumbles backwards and falls to the floor, twitching with each shot. When you run out of ammo, it gets up. The bullets went clean through it, not hindered by bones or anything. The wounds heal before your eyes, and after only a few seconds, they're gone. In a panic, you check its health. It's at half. You're slow, in a small space, have ran out of ranged weaponry, and it's at half health. You make your way to the front of the bus as quickly as you can and begin frantically pushing or pulling any of the controls that look like they might open the doors. None of the controls seem to do anything, but you don't realize this right away. When you do, the creature is reaching the second row, almost to you. You abandon the controls, pull out your knife, and desperately begin stabbing at the windows of the doors in an attempt to break them. You chip the glass, but don't even get a crack. It's behind you now. You punch the glass with all you've got. Nothing. It grabs you, turns you around, and leans its face in closer to yours. Its face tentacles begin wrapping around your head, and you feel your health draining. Your struggling is getting you nowhere. You remember your knife. You jab it into its side and leave it there. It lets go and stumbles back a step or two. You take advantage of this and flee towards the back of the bus, using your last and best item along the way. When you reach the back, you open the emergency exit intending to escape through it, but you're moving too fast and show no signs of stopping or slowing. In fact, the bus seems to be going faster than it was when you first got here. You get an idea. If you're not going out the exit, it is. You duck into the back row and crouch down, hiding. You hear the creature's lumbering, fleshy steps on the worn carpet of the bus as it approaches the back of the bus and the open door. It stops at the row before yours and peers over the seat back. You see it, and it, presumably, sees you. You quickly switch to the other side of the bus. It follows you. When it's standing in the middle of the aisle, you lunge at it. You pull your knife from its side and jab it into its chest. During the short time that it's more or less stunned, you shove it as hard as you can towards the open emergency exit. You lose some health in the process, but with your guidance, it stumbles towards and falls right out of the exit, the bus continuing at high speeds and leaving it behind. You've won. You remain in the bus for about a minute before your surroundings distort and change again, this time returning you to the cliff. The girl hovers over the chasm staring at you, head cocked to one side. She looks both intrigued and angry.
You cannot stop the inevitable. The consequences for trying are severe.
She then begins to morph, most noticeably growing large angel-like wings as the area around you darkens. The girl. Type Final Boss. Nothing is known about this enemy, since nobody from your realm has ever encountered her before, and returned, at least. You're on your own. Your first instinct is to run. You follow your instinct. Adrenaline pumping, you dash back through the forest as fast as you can. You soon get back to the city, but by this point you can feel her presence close behind you. Though you're tiring, you push on, speeding up a little. You soon make it to the elevator and throw yourself inside. It's still dark inside with no signs of power, but you press the first floor button anyway. At first you think nothing happens, but then you look up and see there's now a loading bar already at 1% with a message where elevator's face usually is. The message reads, "Powering up. Please wait. Sorry for any inconvenience." You stare blankly at this message for a few seconds before a distorted voice from outside taunts you. You snap out of it and run out of the elevator. As you leave, you see the bar is at 5%. Once outside, you see the girl hovering high above the road staring at you. She puts out her arm and the ground around you begins to crack and float upwards. Before you can get to any appreciable height, though, you jump back down to the ground. But as soon as you make contact, the ground begins cracking again. Once again, you find yourself running, but this time towards a building. You saw a door that was ajar and decided to go for it. You hear distorted laughter as you enter the building, and you soon realize why. Once you're inside, some nearby rubble is pulled by an invisible force to completely block the door you just used. You're now trapped until you find another way out. You turn to look around the inside of the building, but find yourself face to face with a creature you're sure wasn't standing there before. Looking down at you, they speak.
"We've got a newcomer over here, and it looks like they've made her angry."
You're not sure who this creature is talking to, but then you see a light in the corner of your eye. Turning your head, you see a second creature, seemingly made completely of fire, or maybe plasma. They don't speak, but their head is turned towards you. The first creature doesn't look away from you and speaks again.
"It's your lucky day, stranger. Normally I'd tell you to scram before I make you. But since you've brought her here, all of our necks are on the line. Not to mention she's just blocked the exit. So, if we survive and you prove yourself useful, I might just let you stick around."
After they finish speaking, you find your voice. You thank it for its kind offer, but tell them you won't be staying, that you are just trying to return home. When you say this, the creature smirks a little and says,
"Oh, you're going to the below world, huh? You know, I'd like to see the below world. I think we'll be joining you."
After saying this, they look to the fire creature, seemingly for confirmation. Though it says nothing and doesn't even really move, the first creature turns back to you, somehow satisfied. Before you can respond to this turn of events, you hear some sort of crashing noise before rubble begins to fall around you. the girl descends from a large hole in the roof. A little light is coming in from the hole, but it does not reach the floor due to the girl's dark aura. All three of you take a battle stance, looking up at this mighty foe. She looks down at each one of the beings before her, lingering on each for a few moments. Then, suddenly and quickly, she swoops down on the fire creature. Before contact is made, however, a blast of fire shoots from the fire creature's outstretched arm, causing her to stop in her tracks. Almost seamlessly, the girl turns from the fire and glides towards the first humanoid cat-like creature. Her wings and clothes appear to be a little burned in places, but she seems functionally unaffected. After watching this unfold, you snap out of it and jump into action. While the other two battle the girl, you will try and find an exit. You do this for a little while and shortly find a fire escape, but when you turn to the others, you see that the girl has the humanoid cat creature pinned against the wall with a chokehold. She's speaking to it, but she's talking low and you're far away, so you can't hear what she's saying. Without really thinking, you charge. As you run, you unsheath the last weapon you have, a sword. As you're about to reach them, some sort of sinkhole begins at your feet. Immediately after noticing this, you leap, raise your sword above your head, and bring it down on the girl. This attack didn't have the effect one may expect, but it did daze her, causing her to loosen her chokehold. Taking the opportunity to struggle free, the humanoid cat expels some sort of black substance from its mouth onto the girl. The substance seems to be hot or some kind of acid, because the girl clutches at where the substance hit her and stumbles backwards for a moment. You motion for the humanoid cat to follow you, and you dash towards the fire escape you found. The fire creature joins you, catching up from the other side of the room, where they were apparently thrown. Before you reach the exit, the girl materializes in front of it, with no trace of the black substance, or the burns for that matter. At this point, you realize she's playing with you and the others. If she can materialize, she would have had no reason to normally chase you like she did, and you suspect this isn't the only thing she's holding back on. That said, you have no choice but to play along. You swing your sword at her, shortly followed by the other two attacking with their black substance and fire, respectively. This attack seems to satisfy her enough to let you by, because she allows herself to be pushed backwards, and then she dematerializes. The humanoid cat creature, already out the door, yells at you to come on, and you follow the fire creature outside, wary of whatever she's going to do next. The exit being on the opposite side of the building that you entered through, the three of you get around the building and inside of the elevator with no problem. But the girl is standing in front of the elevator, very still. Though her features are difficult to make out, she seems angrier. You guess she just discovered that you actually had a way out, and that she doesn't want that. She begins to hover again, and the three of you make a mad dash for the elevator. Before you can reach it, however, a wall made of some black material erupts from the ground in front of you. It's not a very wide wall, and one could easily go around it, but you figure the girl wouldn't allow that, so you need a distraction. The other two appear to understand this, because the humanoid cat looks at the fire creature, and the fire creature nods, before raising both arms to the girl, a steady stream of individual fireballs coming from its hands. You and the humanoid cat duck around the wall, taking advantage of the distraction, reach the elevator, and go inside. The humanoid cat is too tall and has to duck to fit inside. You look at the screen. The bar is at 79%. Not too bad. You only get to look at this for a moment, though, because soon large black tendrils coming from the ground a little past elevator's exit wrap themselves around you and the humanoid cat's legs and torso and drag the two of you outside the elevator and hold you above the ground. You have one free arm, and you use that arm to chop away at the tendrils with your sword. It's difficult since you're at an awkward angle, but the tendrils react to your strikes, and eventually you get them to let you go. Once on the ground, you strike them a couple more times to be safe, and then go over to free the humanoid cat. You free them much more quickly than you did yourself, and soon you two are on either side of the fire creature, who is still firing fireballs, but at a slower pace than before. You tell them in a low voice that it's almost time to leave, but not yet, and to just focus on surviving. You have just enough time to say this before a beam of white light is fired straight into the fire creature's chest. The hole left by the beam is quickly filled back in with flames, but they clutch at their chest anyway. You tell them to go to the elevator and to wait for you and the humanoid cat. They weakly nod and stumble towards the elevator. On their way, a tendril tries to wrap around them, but it can't since the creature is made of fire. They keep going and reach the elevator. After you see that they've made it, you turn away to deal with the problem at hand. The ground around you and the humanoid cat has cracked and is beginning to float. You tell the humanoid cat to jump, and they do. Before you do, however, you spot various creatures watching the commotion from alleyways, rooftops, doorways, and so on. Newly wary of this new potential threat, you jump. Once on the ground, you notice that a lot of chunks of land are breaking loose and floating up, including the one you just landed on. You get an idea and don't jump off this time. As soon as you see a path, you jump from platform to platform towards the girl, and when you're on the last one, you leap from it and raise your sword over your head, ready to strike. As you're bringing the sword down, a strong invisible force pushes you backwards, and you go flying through the air. By design or not, you end up flying straight into the humanoid cat, knocking you both off the platform they were on, and leaving you sprawled out on the ground, you on top of the humanoid cat. Before you can get off and up, you hear the sound of numerous creatures running. Realizing you had let go of your sword as you flew through the air, you go into the fetal position, weaponless. The running creatures arrive, and then pass you. You don't get out of the fetal position and up, however, until you hear the girl's distorted voice saying things like, "What are you doing?" Once up, you quickly realize that the creatures are attacking the girl for some reason. Whether this is to help you, the humanoid cat and fire creature, or whether they just took this opportunity to revolt, you don't care. You just take advantage of this turn of events and sprint for the elevator, hoping the humanoid cat is following without risking checking. Once inside the elevator, you immediately check the bar. 100%, and you notice the lights are on inside too. As you're looking at these things, the humanoid cat arrives, ducks down, and enters the elevator. As soon as they're inside, you pretty much punch the first floor button. As the doors close, you see the girl materialize in front of the doors. Before they close, she sticks her arm in between the doors to stop them. The humanoid cat expels a little of its black substance onto the girl's hand, and it retracts, allowing the doors to close. As the elevator begins to descend, it shakes violently for several moments as you hear the steadily more distant voice of the girl screaming something that sounds vaguely like "no." Soon, both the shaking and screaming stops, and all is calm. You breathe a sigh of relief, slide down the side of the elevator, and sit. You feel safe and at peace, despite the fact you're weaponless and itemless in an elevator that attacked you last time you rode it, with two strange and dangerous creatures you barely know from a realm you just barely escaped. You begin to doze off. And that's a wrap. And it is very dark outside as I finish recording, because I record outside because I'm strange. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this alternate universe boss fight story, and if you want to contribute to it in some way or add on to it, feel free to in the comments. But with that said, I'm gonna head out. Subscribe to PewDiePie, and bye.